welcome to the Rob Burgess Show. I am, of course, your host, Rob Burgess. On this, our 116th episode, our returning guest is Jonathan Fowler. First heard Jonathan Fowler on episodes 2, 10, 20, 21, 29, 30, 31, 32, 34, 35, 43, 48, 51, 56, 64, 74, 83, 92, 102, 103, 104, 105, 106, 107, 108, 109, 111, 114, 115, and episode 82, also featuring fellow regular guest Ash Burgess of the podcast. Jonathan graduated with a BA in History from Indiana University in 2006. He is an unabashed left-wing political junkie. He has lived and worked in South Korea for over 10 years, trying to help the citizens of that great nation hopefully talk pretty one day. If you listened to the last 6 episodes with Jonathan, you heard us talk about the first 3 seasons of The Wire. On this episode, we'll be discussing up through the end of Season 4. So consider this your blanket spoiler alert. And now, on to the show.
Hello.
Hey, Jeff.
Hey, what's up?
Hey, nothing much. Your ring is back to that chirping thing again.
Huh. Yeah, I don't know about that. I don't know what's going on there.
But.
Okay. Yeah, so what's up?
Oh, nothing much. Yeah, so how's the PUBG going?
Going okay, I guess. Yeah. Didn't get a chicken dinner tonight.
Now, what does the chicken dinner mean again?
That's all you get when you win.
Oh.
In a few points.
I see.
Yeah. So yeah, season 4 of the Wire.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what do you think of this season?
It ended on kind of a sad note, but I liked it overall. I thought it was a solid season. I did appreciate the shift in focus. As you mentioned, there's a new kind of focus each season that's definitely focused on it was kind of a dual one with the politics and also the education side, but those kind of dovetailed, so.
Yeah, what I like about it is it kind of snowballs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like we've still got the Barksdales, we've still got the politics from season 3, and we've got the school stuff now.
Mm-hmm.
The ports are kind of in the background, but there is some mention about like city redevelopment stuff that's going on that Carcetti seems to be interested in order to put his name on something, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think we may see how that affects the ports. I think they were talking about the location of the grain pier or something, or how they were going to tear that stuff down or something to build the stuff they wanted to build.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one thing I was going to mention that I don't know if you want to get into yet, but we did see Spiros again. Yeah, that was interesting actually, because I thought that those guys had totally left town after season 3. Yeah, same here.
They were sort of still in the mix.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, as you mentioned, the Prop Joe was still getting his stuff from somewhere, and he seemed to be still getting it from the peers. I just thought it was like literally someone else. I didn't realize that he like went to Europe and came back or whatever. So. Yeah,
we don't really know what those guys did.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, I thought they were going to get it from somebody else too. But it looks like Spiros is still their supplier, and they had the meeting. Well, we're getting a little ahead of ourselves, but they had the meeting with Marlowe because Marlowe didn't trust that Prop Joe had been ripped off, and so he wanted to meet the person who was supplying them.
Mm-hmm.
So what about Marlowe this season? He's kind of the big bad of this season, I guess you could say.
Yeah, definitely. Well, you were right about Snoop and Chris Partlow. My goodness.
Yeah. What about them?
Yeah, I did like, I think I was exemplified in the, when Chris Partlow was like, you want to say a few words for the dead? And, Snoop was like, yeah, we're gathered here because some New York boys came too far south or whatever. I was like, man, that's cold.
Yeah. Yeah, they They were, killing people left, right, and center, just all the time.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so what did you think of the first scene of the season, though? We got to start there, I guess.
Oh, loved it. Yeah, that was great.
In the hardware store.
Yeah, that was actually one of my favorite scenes of the whole series. I thought it was really, really good. It set up because you knew right then that the nail gun was going to be important. Actually, it was important, but in a way that I didn't even think about it being important necessarily. Like I thought, okay, well they're going to use this because and I thought, okay, so guns are traceable, right? So maybe this is a way to like get around that, and they can kill people with the nail gun, and they'll never know who did it or whatever. But as they mentioned later, after getting ahead of ourselves a little bit, but after who was it that shot the nail gun into the street? What's his name? Herc. Yeah, after Herc does that, they're like, oh well, we can trace, if we have the gun, we can trace the nail gun to the thing. So that's not even true necessarily, but I hadn't even considered the idea that this is going to be the thing with the doors and whatever, the vacants. So that was interesting.
Yeah. I thought it was just, there's kind of this looming dread throughout the whole season because, in season 3, the mayor and the police chiefs and everybody have been trying to get the murder rate down, right? Mm-hmm. And the murder rate seems to be down, and so everybody's satisfied. But you also are seeing Chris and Snoop just go around killing people left and right, and you're like, boy, when they find out about this, they're going to be in for like a world of shit. And sure enough, like when Lester Freeman finds out that they've been hiding the bodies in these vacant houses and stuff, they're like, yeah, we're going to have a lot of bodies. We don't know how many. It could be dozens or something. And they're like, what do you want us to do? Do you want us to sit on this, or do you want us to take them out now? And they're like, well, sit on it. Mm-hmm. And then finally they change their mind and they're like, okay, take them out. We got to get them out while it's still going to be on Royce's turn as mayor and not on Carcetti's. So just get them out.
Yeah, I thought that was an interesting turn because that actually, not to jump ahead again, but that did actually work out in Bubbles' favor, right? Eventually.
In Bubbles' favor? How's that?
Well, I mean, remember the scene at the beginning of the last episode of the season where, he tries to hang himself and stuff after, what's-his-name, gets the hot shot that wasn't meant for him. And then, what's his name? Landsman was like, oh, he suffered enough. And the other guy's like, oh, what about the clearance rate? He's like, forget the clearance rate. Because, like, it's already shot at that point because we've got all these bodies in the vacants that are already up on the board at that point. So, really, it was kind of lucky that all happened for Bubbles, if it was going to happen for him at all, that it happened when it did. So, because then he could just throw that on the pile, and
Bubbles' luck holds out in a way, although Bubbles is scraping the bottom, I think. So, yeah. A lot of stuff's going on.
Yeah, one thing I would like to know, and I have reached out to David Simon, just so you know, I've put a message through to his website. So, David Simon, if you're listening, come on in the Rob Burgess Show and talk about The Wire. But I do want to ask, like, how much did he know that this series was going to continue? Because, like, I get the sense that he knew the whole time that this was not going to be a one-shot deal. Or if he did, he definitely didn't make it look that way. Because, like, for example, like, when that happens with Bubbles, and then we see that last montage, we see Waylon come back. And the way he brings back characters like Waylon is a very unhurried way. And, these are rich characters, and they obviously have a lot within them that they have to give to the show. And it's like, would he really have introduced this character way back when if he didn't know for a fact that, and I already see where this is going in season 5, he's going to be a sponsor, he's going to help Bubbles get clean, I already see that arc. But, that's a long simmering arc, because what was the last time we saw Waylon? Season 2? 3? I mean, it's been a while. So, I don't know. What's your take?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think these characters are rich enough that they can stay there for a minute if they need to, and they can come back if they need to, It's like, I mean, I've been noticing so much more this time that the Dozerman character got shot in season 2, I think it was, maybe season 3.
Is this the guy that Presbeluski shot?
No, that guy died.
Dozerman. Who's Dozerman?
He's the white cop who, he had longer hair in the first season he was in, and then later he had shorter hair.
Okay.
He's kind of a quiet guy. He's either paired with Herc or Carver usually, I think, or possibly what's that other guy's name? The guy I always forget his name of. He's another. There are these two guys that just I always forget that they're there, even though they've been there like kind of almost like the whole time almost, but they just don't have much character and stuff. Like they're pretty undeveloped compared to other characters.
Is this the one with goatee? Are you talking about him, or is this someone else? The guy with like
there's the black guy who has been there. What's his name? God. And then there's the white guy, and I don't know if he has a goatee or not. But anyways, I don't know what we were saying about him. But
you were mentioning Dozerman as a character. You were noticing him more this time.
Well, yeah. I mean, he's just a character. I mean, these characters kind of they drop in and they drop out, and I don't know. They're well developed enough that they could have more story if they need to, but they don't always. I guess I'm just saying, like the Dozerman and this other guy, they are not. They're always there, but they're not totally fully developed. But they could have a story arc. Like if they had gone into season 6 or season 7 or something, they probably could have done more with these guys or something potentially. But
yeah, maybe that's true. Maybe they just would have brought other people back if more seasons had happened. But it's just very interesting to me how they do that, because it's like, I would have felt slightly cheated out of like Wayon's character, for example, if that was all we saw of him. He gave that one speech, he met Bubbles on the bench, and that was it. Like, that feels incomplete to me. Like, it was almost like they knew this trajectory was like in their back pocket, at least the whole time. At least, like, if we get to do this, maybe we'll flesh this out more. But it seemed like they knew where they were going with that even back then. So
yeah, it'd be fascinating if you could get David Simon on the show. That obviously start making your question list now, and I'll start putting together some questions too, just in case.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
There's definitely things that I would ask him if I, or would have you ask him for me.
Sure. Sure. But
so, yeah, I don't know. We may be overselling our gravitas or something, or our reach here a little bit right now, but whatever.
Yeah, we'll see. You never know.
Yeah. Well, near the beginning of the season, also, Herc is working for Mayor Royce, right? And he's kind of just signed up for this job because he's realized he's too dumb to make rank on his merits and stuff. So he's like, this is the shortcut. And then he's just kind of bumbling around the mayor's mansion or something, like looking for, or downtown the hall or whatever. And he walks in on the mayor getting a blowjob.
Yes.
And then he turns around and walks out, and then he goes to Valchek to ask him what he should do, and he's like, what should I do about this? Like, should I tell somebody? Should I not tell somebody? And Valchek tells him, like, oh boy, I wish I was in your situation. Just don't say anything, and then in a couple of weeks he's going to come to you and ask you, like, what job you want to have, and he's going to give it to you. And if he doesn't do that, then you can talk about it. And he knows the deal, you know the deal, and I know the deal, and you're a lucky guy. And basically it works out like that. So that was fun.
Yeah, that was almost like, now that I think about it, it was almost the inverse of what that conversation with Lester Freeman and McNulty about what job don't you want. This is like, the opposite of that. It's like, this is like a come to Jesus moment or whatever, but it's like, if you play this right, this will work out in your favor. But then that, who's that one boss that comes in and like basically shutters the special thing, that one guy that Rawls appoints.
Oh yeah, that guy. That's definitely a guy I want to talk about, because in my Hagwon right now, my school, like, we've had a boss in for the past several months. He's got me about ready to quit this job because he's just so incompetent. And he's like, this character in this show is exactly who I've been thinking about when I think about my boss, because our boss is just making so many bad decisions. It's almost like he's trying to make bad decisions to run off talent, because that's what he's effectively doing. I mean, some people have already quit. And it's just like, I see that, and I really just, I really vibed with these scenes in the show this time. I always have, because I've had bad bosses before.
Oh yeah.
And just, the morale sapping.
Oh yeah.
Just the guy comes in, hey, I'm a cop like you. I've been out there 24/7, on the streets doing the job just like you. So you respect me, right?
Yeah.
And, talking the talk, but not walking the walk.
Well, and I love the scene too, in retrospect, where he first gets that job too, because like, he doesn't seem quite so bad in that one scene where Rawls appoints disappoints him, he's just like, well, this is what's happening, what can I do? But then he comes in and he's like, all right, I've got my little shred of power and I'm going to exploit it for everything it's worth and I'm going to destroy everything.
Yeah, his name was Lieutenant Charles Marimo, I believe.
Yep. That was a good actor. I thought he did that part well. It was definitely like the nightmare boss that we've all had at one time or another in our lives. So.
Yeah. I mean, he comes in. He obviously emphasizes the wrong things. Mm-hmm. He says, attendance at the meetings is mandatory. He's like, where's this guy? And they're like, well, he was out on a stakeout all night. He's like, well, attendance at the meetings is not mandatory.
Exactly.
People are leaving. I think somebody said at some point, I forget if it was Landsman or who said, Marimo does not cast off talent lightly. He heaves it away with great force. So they know this is what he's notorious for. It's like chasing away the good police from a unit.
And, he's the ultimate, they talk about juking the stats and chasing stats. He's the ultimate stat hound. That's all he cares about. He doesn't care about actual good police work or any actual results beyond what you can measure on a graph. That we want street rips or whatever he's talking about. He's that's the point that he's driving towards. He doesn't care about actually doing any good, quote unquote. All he wants to do is just get those numbers.
Well, a lot of people in the higher up part seem to do that. And I think the fact that that's been a consistent thing that, I think David Simon obviously has a huge problem with that based on the way that that's always the thing that the stupid characters are saying that they want. And so he basically makes them use the information they've got off of the wire that they've been using against Marlowe. He wants to do some raids that day or something, and they're like, well, and even Herc, who's the stupidest cop we see most of the time, is like, well, they change them around, so if we jump on them today, they're probably not still going to be there. He's like, no, we're doing it. We're going to take some bodies, we're going to crack some heads the Western District way or whatever. Mm-hmm. Then they do it and they don't get anything, and he's like, what the hell? And we got a leak or something. He's blaming other things, and they're like, we told you this is what was going to happen, and then they blew the wire, and yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the whole reason we started talking about him was the fact that when by the way, Herc is historically unlucky about cameras and listening devices at this point.
Yeah, his unregistered CI.
Yeah, right, exactly. What was his name? Fuzzy, what was his name?
Fuzzy Dunlap.
Fuzzy Dunlap, I love it. All right, so Fuzzy Dunlap, quote unquote. Anyway, he's like, what does he say to him? Your rabbi is gone or whatever, because he's referring to the fact that the mayor who he got his promotion based off of is no longer there to protect him or whatever. But then wait, what happens to that guy Marimo or whatever after that? Because he's gone, right? He's cleaning out his desk eventually, right?
Well, what happens is that Carcetti is getting increasingly set up with Burrell, mm-hmm. and to some degree, what's his name?
Rawls.
The homicide chief.
Rawls.
And he's really taking kind of a shine to Daniels. Mm-hmm. And Daniels said, hey, I used to have this thing. Can you reconstitute this major crimes unit that I had and stuff? And he's like, yeah, you can. And he said, and then Daniels basically goes to Lester Freeman, and says, look, as far as I'm concerned, this is your unit. You can hire whoever you want. You can fire whoever you want and stuff. And then they have the fun scene where the guy's cleaning out his office and screaming and cursing and stuff, and everybody's sitting there waiting and watching, and then he comes out and he's like, can somebody help me open the door? And he's like, open the door for him and something. He gets gone, and then they bring in the other guy who is basically like a total absentee manager, right? This guy has been notorious for the past season or two he's always crazy about his, he's building his summer home or his beach home or something, and he's always got his blueprints with him and stuff, and they're like, how's your beach house? He's like, oh, it's going well, He's like, good. They don't really want to hear it.
They don't care at all.
But it's a mutually beneficial relationship. He's not going to manage Lester Freeman, so he's above Lester Freeman. But basically, Lester Freeman got him hired and got him the job, and Lester Freeman's going to do what he wants, and that's just how it's going to work out there. So, yeah, it was extremely satisfying to watch this guy get canned there.
Yeah,
get moved on because we all hate that character, and Yeah, we hope more things like that will happen in real life.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
What do you think about Mayor Royce as far as like?
One more thing about Herc when he goes to meet with Carver about that, and Carver's like cracking up, and he's like, "Well, what did you say?" He's like, "Well, I complimented him. What I forget what."
He's like, "I see you've got a nice dick there, man, and it's very hard." That's great.
That was a great scene. I also like when he goes to eventually meet with Royce, as whatever his name is, said he would. Valchek said he would, and then like to schedule the meeting or whatever is the woman he saw there, and they both give this like knowing look. It's like, yeah, we both know what's going on here.
Yeah, and he knocks on the door. He's like, "I'm coming in." Okay?
Yeah, knocking.
He's very careful at that point.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. What were you gonna say?
What do you think about Mayor Royce? I mean, obviously he's an extremely corrupt, guy who has presided over an unsuccessful city for some time here, and eventually it comes out the budget shortfall due to the all the things that Carcetti wanted to do when he became mayor basically look impossible now because of the school's financial shortfall of like $50 million or something something that the schools have been running a deficit. And so all the stuff about he wanted to give raises to the police department and stuff to get hard on crime and stuff like that, it's people are telling him, well, now you can't do that and stuff.
Well, I mean, I forget who said it, like, maybe it was Bunny, I don't remember, maybe it was that former mayor Carcetti keeps consulting with, the line was, come to do good, stay to do well, or something. Like, it was like a very like succinct, like kind of like get in there because you're idealistic and stay because it's like profitable. Like that was a very succinct way of like kind of, and I think he's like a victim or like a product of that. I'm sure when he started out, Royce or whatever, I'm sure he had idealistic intentions or whatever. At least some of them were idealistic, and by the time he's out of there, he's just basically, like you said, totally corrupt. So.
Yeah. What did you think about like when Carcetti comes in to the mayor's office and stuff, and he's like, "Here, come on back here, have a seat." He's like, "Oh, I'm not even elected yet." And he's like, "Well, if you can't beat a Republican in this city, you don't deserve to be mayor. Come on, have a seat," and stuff. And he's just like very friendly and stuff. And I think that's the ideal of the transfer of power that we have for our presidents, right? It's a vicious fight, but once it's over and somebody's winner, then the person who's leaving office needs to like be very kind and conciliatory towards them coming in and stuff. And so that's interesting to watch, I thought.
Well, I thought that was a very to quote Omar, all in the game moment, because it was kind of like they both know that the fight, as it were, even though it was ugly and it was corrupt in all these ways, it's over. We're going to put that behind us because that was all in the game. And, now we're just going to like focus on what's actually happening, which is the transfer of power, like you said. So.
Yeah. All right. We also had the police Officer Colicchio, I think his name was. He's the white guy with the kind of the shaved sides of his head and stuff. Obviously, he's like he's one brutality complaint away from I don't know. but he's kind of like, I mean, if there's a cop who's dumber than the funny thing is, because Herc has been set up as the dumbest cop ever, and yet we still find these people who are dumber. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, this guy was just somebody I think is worth kind of. He's been there since season 3 at least, I think. But yeah, he's definitely a person that I don't know I've paid attention to a little bit too. Let's see. Carcetti's campaigning. It was like he was just kind of on autopilot. He thought he was going to lose, and then he ended up winning, basically because a witness got killed. But then I think it later came out that the person was not killed because they were a witness. It was just totally random or something, but he won because of that. So it was kind of like his actual issue that he won on it's very complicated because on the one hand, it's a real issue because in the first couple seasons, a couple witnesses did get killed, and then this witness get killed for unrelated reason. It seems like, but he won on this issue this time. So that was
like even though he was wrong, he was right in a larger sense. I did like the interactions he had after that with Kima, because didn't he use her as like kind of a punching bag, as like an experienced homicide officer was placed on the case, and then like when he goes to like get down and dirty with the homicide detectives and he drinks the rest of the coffee, she's like, you finish that, you're gonna make some more.
Yeah. Well, I mean, she was mad at him, but I don't know. It's an interesting question. Like the show again. We get to the macro and the micro, and you wonder under which one would Kima Greggs be better off under, Royce or Carcetti. And we see that the people at the top do have a huge effect on what's going on down below. And at the same time, we see that these police officers, like Kima and McNulty, are not politically aware, really, right? I mean, Herc is politically aware insofar as he wants to keep the mayor he saw getting the blowjob in office so that he can continue to reap the benefits of his ill-gotten. But I mean, like, that's the level these people are operating. Yeah, I thought there was an interesting thing with there were some pointless meetings early on. In a lot of times there seems to be a lot of kind of like parallelism, I guess we could say, in the show where, like something happens with the police, but it also happens with the criminals. It also happens with the school system and stuff. And like, I think there was like pointless meetings in the first episode or two where the school teachers were getting a self-help talk about how, you're worth it. You can do it. You just kind of like this bland, vague, positive self-help nonsense stuff. And then the police were getting a talk about terrorism and how to like recognize terrorists and stuff and what to do. And they're getting, binders full of information. And McNulty was taking the binders to bring home to Beatty's kids, who he's living with Beatty now from season 2. He's off the drink. He seems to be doing well. He's emotionally healthy. I think he had a meeting with his ex-wife.
I'm sure that'll last through the entire rest of the series, right? He won't ever fall off the wagon.
Yeah, well, I don't know. We'll see what happens. I think it seems to be implied that it depends on McNulty staying away from, I don't know, we could say more, I don't know, not getting involved in the office politics at his job. Not getting wrapped up in the murders, not getting wrapped up in the, pursuing the high-level drug stuff. It seems to be just like walking the beat seems to be his happy place where he's not tempted in a lot of ways, I guess we could say. Yeah, so I thought it was good to see Beatty come back. She's a pretty grounded individual, I think. Yeah,
I like her. She's a good character. But, did you want to talk about Przebylewski?
Yeah, and I think from the very first episode we did, where we were talking about his brutality and stuff, I mean, I said, well, Przebylewski has an arc, right? And now we haven't seen the end of that arc, but we've seen where he has come to the middle school where he's teaching, right? Because he can't be a police officer anymore. He's out of that. I mean, what do you think about him now?
I mean, he's rehabilitated in that he's nowhere near firearms. That's good. As somebody that has, been educated, I got my degree in elementary education. I have turned away from the education career path, as it were, for various reasons, and I feel I had a little bit of flashbacks, PTSD, not quite to the obviously this is an extreme situation. He's in a Baltimore public school, and I was not, but with the teaching profession, as it were, the insights he gains as kind of a new teacher coming into this cold, it definitely brought up some feelings, and I'm sure as an educator yourself, Cha, I'm sure you feel some kinship with him in this season here.
Yeah. Like I think the scene that clinched it for me was when he started giving out detentions, right? He gave a detention to Naaman Bryce, and naming the kids. The kids is obviously the thing we're beating around the bush here for season 4 because that's a huge thing.
Yeah.
But he gives Naaman Bryce, Weebay's son, as attention, and then a few seconds later, he's like, the kid talks him out of it. He's like, "Oh man, come on, you didn't explain the rules to us. I want to be good." He's like, "Okay, maybe we won't give you the attention today." And I'm like, "Oh no." No,
don't
Once
do that.
You say it, you got to do it.
Yep, like that's the only rule.
You can't.
Yep.
Yeah, that's like You can go easy on him tomorrow after you punish him today, but you cannot back away from the punishment you've given because, I don't know.
It's like Bunny says.
Right?
It's like they're like testing every rule they can, and this is like training for the streets and what they can get away with. And if they think they sense a weakness in the perimeter, they're going to break through.
Yeah, but at the same time, like I think we see Presbalewski's at the beginning he doesn't know what the hell's going on, and by the end he's made a bond with some of the students, especially Dookie, who we talked about, and Randy to some degree. Randy's always trying to run game and like stuff, but he's a good kid at heart. Basically, it seems like. What do you think about the kids?
The kids, yeah, that was a good storyline. I wanted to mention something about Naaman, though, and the whole thing. It's like, is that too convenient that that's Weebay's son and Presbalewski's the teacher? I mean, come on. And then Bubble sees Presbalewski in the, in the office, and he's like, "You're undercover, boss. I won't tell anybody." And it's like, that's a funny scene, I guess, but this is a little too, like, the show inverting on itself a little bit. It's like, Baltimore is a major city with millions of people in it. You're going to tell me that these people are really like the son of the murderer that was put away by the team that Presbalewski was a part of is now the teacher of? Like, that's something that would happen in a small town like Mitchell or something.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying it's impossible, but it just seems a little bit like, okay, really? Is that really what happened?
Yeah, I don't know. It was interesting, I thought.
No, it was good. I mean, storytelling-wise, it made a nice little package or whatever, but anyway. But the kids, the larger issue of the kids. Yeah, no, the kids were good. I liked all the kid actors. They did a good job. They had the, what was his name that you said he forms a bond with Dookie? That was a good story arc. And then, oh man, what was that one kid that goes with Marlowe, and then Chris Partlow beats that guy to a pulp? Well, that was a brutal scene there. But
that was a whole nother thing. I mean, this show is just like, to talk about any one thing opens up 5 to 10 other avenues to go down. And Michael is a character who's an interesting character.
Well, there's that scene where Marlowe just hands out the money, and then he doesn't take it. But then Marlowe actually, these lieutenants are getting mad, but like Marlowe recognizes that it's because the kid has a head on his shoulders, and he wants to try to groom him to be part of their crew. And that was an interesting scene for a lot of reasons, but that was kind of the genesis of kind of Marlowe's interest, I think, in this kid. So
yeah, and there's a lot of Michael is a pretty complicated character. He's in the group of kids. He's got some major homophobia issues as far as regarding Cuddy over at the and Cuddy's got his
okay, I just have to pause. If we're going to mention Cuddy, I got to mention the scene, my favorite scene of the season with Cuddy, where he gives the speech to the kids about apologizing for having one night stands with all their moms.
Yeah. Yeah, that was pretty good.
Anyway, go on.
Yeah, I think actually my favorite scene of the season was election morning, when Cuddy gets up and he puts on his Walkman. He's leaving a woman's house, and she's like, "Oh, it's going to be like that. You're just going to leave." He's like, "I'll be back." And she's like, "Oh, I see. It's going to be like that," or something. And he puts on a Walkman and puts on "Move On Up," which is a great song. And he just goes for a run, and while he's running, everybody else is going out to do elections and stuff, right? And he's a convicted felon. He can't vote. He's not politically aware really and stuff, but he's doing his thing. And the city of Baltimore is voting, and the song kind of comes to an abrupt end when Carcetti comes out of the voting booth and stuff, and it comes out that he's won. That scene is just, I thought was,
yeah.
Well,
I think we may have mentioned this before, but I was reading a little bit about the production of The Wire, and the creators were very conscious of the fact that no music in the show, besides the end of season montages, is like piped in. There's no like overlaid music. It's all within the scene, and that actually, like, it's a small thing, but it's like something that really gives it that realism, because it's like, this is what the characters in the scene you're watching or listening to. It puts you right where they are. And it's like, it's a subtle thing, and you wouldn't think about that normally, because it's like not that big a deal, you wouldn't think, but actually it really helps like kind of place you in the moment. And I think that actually makes, and I honestly think I loved the end of season montage and the song that went with it, Golden Splinters or whatever. But that, I almost think they could place any song in that slot, and I would like feel like my heart would swell, because like they've set you up for that. That is the only song that they pipe in the entire season, and it's like you're kind of trained to think this is meaningful. Whatever we're gonna play right now, we really mean it, because we haven't done it before, and we're really gonna do it now. So it's the music is largely extremely effective, and that song and that scene, I think, for me was one of the best ones of the season, maybe one of the best ones of the show. I agree.
Yeah.
And that scene with Waylon and Bubbles, to go back to that just broke my heart. He's like, I don't want to feel, like that, like he's clean now. This is what he's been running away from. And, this is exactly what Waylon told him. It's like, you're getting clean's the easy part, and then you have to live with yourself. It's life after that. And it's like, this is what he's going to have to deal with now. He's going to have to realize that he has to kind of face what he's been running away from. So.
Yeah, and the final straw, of course, for Bubbles was that he had been trying to make a hot shot to kill. Or there'd been a guy who'd been robbing him every day while he was going around trying to make money selling T-shirts and stuff. And the guy was either taking drugs from him or money, and so he was putting some hot shot, dangerous drugs with poison in them in his pockets, and he thought this guy was going to rough him up and take the drugs and stuff. And on that day he didn't, and then on that day he put his coat down, and his old friend came back to his house, and like they'd had a falling out before, but the guy was going to live with him again and try to work on the job with him again where they're selling stuff. And like, but then that night, I guess the other guy woke up during the night and rummaged through his pockets and found the drugs and did them. And when Bubbles woke up, he was dead, and that just like kind of sent Bubbles over the edge, because this was it's kind of like Johnny 2.0, a person he was trying to bring up in the game and stuff, and look out for, and he inadvertently killed him in a way, and so. And yet, it wouldn't have ever gotten to that point, because somebody had told, like, Herc that he needed to get a CI, and so he's trying to work Bubbles as a CI. He gets information from Bubbles, but then he doesn't hold up his end of the bargain. He ignores Bubbles' call when Bubbles is, like, needing him to come pick up this guy who's attacking him. Bubbles gets his ass kicked once or twice by the guy because Herc didn't show. And so then Bubbles tells him, okay. Bubbles is walking by some church folk coming out of church on Sunday morning, and he's like, hey, you got some change to spare? And they're like, no. And so he just he calls Herc, and he's like, hey, I got one of Marlowe's drug dealers coming out now. He's in this nice car. And he gives them like the pastor's plate number. And Herc, of course, goes down there and, is brutal, thinking he's got a drug dealer. And like he pulls out Bibles and stuff. He's like, what's this? and stuff. Of course, this is a politically connected minister.
I'm going to go ahead and need your badge number.
Yeah, Herc, of course, after he's already lost like a $4,000 mic or camera or something. He attributed it to a confidential informant that he didn't have. He pulled Marlowe over when Marlowe didn't have anything on him, because Marlowe had figured out that he was being watched and he wanted to test him. And so, Herc, even though he had the good fortune of, getting on the old mayor's good graces there at the beginning of the season, he's now, through a series of just total incompetent things, he has basically screwed himself in the department totally. And Marimo was going to fire him, basically, but then Marimo got fired. But now, again, Herc gets taken away by the Internal Affairs IAD, I guess, at the end, and they want to know about his partners. He says, no, don't worry about the partners, it was all me. And so it looks like Herc's going down. And and so again, that's all connected to the fact, well, partially, I mean, number one, his bad luck with cameras, but his bad police work, his bad work with the CI, his, mistreating Bubbles, who, McNulty and Kima have always generally done right by. So, yeah. So again, what do you think of the kids? We gotta come back to the kids.
All right, the kids. Yeah.
Naaman, Marcus. There's Naaman. There's Michael. There's Naaman. I don't know if it's Marcus or not. I think that's right. Naaman, Michael, Dookie, Randy, and there's that one kid who always steals cars. I forget his name.
Yeah. Yeah, I like the kids. I thought it was good. I mean, a worse show would have, that's where the show would have fallen apart, I feel like. Because, I don't know. I feel like child actors are very iffy in general, and I feel like they're not always used the best, even when they are good. And I thought it was a strong way to kind of show the ground level of all this. These kids they're just coming up, and I thought it was really exemplified by the fact when Bunny goes back to this program that he's working in, and he encounters they tried the older kids first. And there was that one kid that was how old was that kid? 18 or something, or 17, I forget.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and then it was just the brick wall is up. This kid is who he is. You're not going to change anything. But if you're going to make any difference in these kids' life, you have to get them somewhat younger than this. So it kind of showed that they're still squishy around the edges. They're still learning the ways of the world and who they want to be in the world, and they're not really hardened yet. So I thought they really exemplified that. I thought that was kind of the scene that kind of unlocked why we need to see these kids. So.
Yeah, I love that part where they've got the 18-year-old guy is in the questioning thing, and they're trying to psychoanalyze him, and they're like, what would you do if
your sister,
if somebody mistreated your sister? He's like, fuck you. Yeah, but what would you do? He's like, well, which sister? Because if it's this one, she probably had it coming. And they're like, well, the other one. And he's like, fuck you, or something. And then he grabs his pen and he takes it and stuff. And the other guy dashes out of the thing, and Buddy just says to him thanks for being you. Thanks for being yourself, or something. Because he was trying to prove a point by bringing this guy to him or something. So, and then the college professor that they're doing the program with is kind of smart, obviously, has a program in mind and stuff, but doesn't really know as much as Bunny about what the the situation he's walking into. So.
Right.
But yeah, so they set up a separate program to take the bad kids out of the class and try to do some other therapies with them and stuff to make them at least be able to interact with the teachers in a productive way most of the time, and also give the other regular students a chance in class to study, which is something that, and I was curious about this because they talked about it, and I took some notes about it somewhere in here, that they said that this was kind of like tracking, right? You're tracking the students. If you take the students out that you have low expectations for, then that's kind of not fair to them or something, and it's frowned upon in educational circles or whatever. But I'm as a teacher, I'm but it's fucking true. It's
well, it's basically I heard, it's a very truism I heard once when I was in school. It was as a teacher, basically what happens is you spend most of your time worrying about the 10% of kids that are on the very bottom and just causing trouble, and they're not getting it and they don't want to get it. And then you're also trying to keep the ones at the very top interested, and you're basically forgetting the 80% in the middle who just want to they're just there to learn, and you don't have any time left for them because you're basically trying to keep these two groups, you're trying to keep these two balls in the air at all times. So
yep, it's I know it's even in Korea too, people want to keep everybody at the same age, even if some of them never studied, they don't know shit, they're way behind in level, they can't speak, and the other students are answering the questions in about 5 seconds. It's we got to keep them together, they're the same age. It would hurt their self-esteem if we put them with lower level students. It's well, but they're not really learning. They're not letting anybody else learn. It's not good for them. It's not good for the other students. It's just it's a saving faith issue where And, you know, I'm not saying that because it's in Asia, but, like, because we do it in America, too, obviously. Like,
sure.
You know,
well, what did the principal call it or whatever when you've been something? You've been
promoted.
Yeah, exactly. So.
Yeah, and so I thought it was a good program. I think it was, you know, kind of another one of David Simon's, you know, kind of thought experiments as far as what if we did this in the schools instead of like keeping all these people together. And it's like, yeah, this might actually work, and I think it would. But it seems like there's some sort of an entrenched thing within educational theory against it. So, yeah, that was interesting. Yeah. So anyways, well. Randy is a character. Randy Wagstaff is actually Cheese Wagstaff's son. Did you get that?
Who's Randy again? Which one is he?
Snitch and Randy.
He's one of. Oh no, I didn't get that. Huh.
Yeah, that's Cheese Wagstaff's son.
No, I did not get that.
You know, of course, throughout the whole, it's no spoiler to say that throughout season 5 too, Cheese never meets his son. They never have a scene together. But yeah, so I mean, we see Cheese with Prop Joe's nephew, and then Randy is his son. But Randy's living in I don't know if he's living in, what do you call it? He's got a foster mom, something, Miss Anna or something like that. And yeah. Randy is you know, obviously heart of gold, always running scams, trying to make money here and there and stuff. Always willing to, you know, let a little information go to get himself out of trouble, which ends up, you know, majorly biting him in the ass by the end of the season.
Sure, especially when he's in the group home.
Yeah, I think at the beginning, basically, Bodie's crew has been told that he has to get with Marlo, right?
Bodie.
And
yeah, we got to talk about Bodie.
Marlo, he's got a guy named Little Kevin with him.
I said we got to talk about Bodie, but go on.
Bodie, yeah, wow. I mean, another guy who has an arc, you know. I mean, like, obviously in season 1 when he kills Wallace, we're pissed, right? He's an asshole. He's killed one of his best friends just to, you know. I don't know. It's messed up.
Well, and then I like the scene with him and what's his name, Poot, where they're like, after little Kevin gets killed, because they went and told him to go see Marlo, and like he's like, yeah, but you thought you had to kill Wallace, and he was like, yeah, it's kind of the same thing, isn't it? Like,
yeah, I took notes on that scene because that was amazing. Well, hold on. Where did I?
We were talking about Randy.
I've got binders full of women over here. Mitt Romney ref.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So he and Poot are talking about that when they take little Kevin's body out of the vacant. Poot says, I mean, you got to look at it from Marlo's point of view. I mean, how this different from Wallace? And Bodie says, because Stringer said Wallace snitched. And Poot says, Kevin might have snitched too. And Bodie says, man, but he didn't. And we had to do Wallace. And I think that was the moment where we know, and maybe on some subconscious level, Bodie knows maybe they didn't have to do Wallace, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And Poot says, Marlo thought he had to do Kevin. And Bodie says, man, but he didn't. That's what I'm saying. He's a cold motherfucker.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's, you know, wow.
Yeah.
I mean, that's Shakespearean right there. Yeah. Right? I mean, like, he's weaving around a point that he doesn't know he's making. And he's talking about somebody else, and yet it applies just as much to himself. I mean, that was wow.
Yeah, I like that scene too. That was really good. I really liked every scene with him and McNulty, but I also completely blame McNulty for him getting killed.
Yeah.
I mean, because like I like when they're at the diner or the shop, the sandwich shop, and like McNulty sits down, and it's obvious they both like respect each other on some level, and it's like, you know, he, as he says in that final scene when they go to the courtyard or whatever, you're a soldier, Bodhi, you know, like he recognizes that they're part of this larger game. They're trying to do what they can within the structures they work in. They're on opposite sides, but it's really like it couldn't be any other way, really. But like at the same time, Bodhi's like looking around like, I cannot be seen with you, dude. Like, I don't care how, you know, cool you think we are with each other, you know, on a personal level. Like, if anyone sees this, like, it's not gonna look good for me. Like,
yeah. And then somebody did see him, and they reported it to Marlowe, and Marlowe sends Chris and Snoop, and I wasn't sure if the guy who shot him was Michael or if that was somebody else. Actually, I kind of like.
I couldn't really tell who that was, to be honest.
Because like they discussed when Marlowe ordered them to kill Bodhi. He said, put that young one on it or something. And like, well, you know, he used to work with Bodhi, so the first time it shouldn't be somebody that he knows. He has to kill somebody he doesn't know first, and then he'll be okay. But then, like, Chris and Snoop are kind of like coming up the block, just kind of like left and right, you know, and he's shooting at both of them, and then somebody else, you know, steps out from behind and shoots him in the back of the head.
He ain't putting me one of those vacants.
Was that Michael?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It must have been a frustrating life for Bodhi, because at the end of the day, Barksdale's in jail, and he had to hold the corner by himself, and he thought he could do that by being on Marlowe's team. And at the end of the day, even that couldn't save him, and he got killed by Marlowe.
Mm-hmm.
Like, fuck.
Well, it was like when he was talking to McNulty, he's like, you know, Bodhi never lost a count. Bodhi, you know, never came up short. Bodhi always did what he had to do, and still, you know, it's like, yeah, it's like the game is rigged. You're right.
Yeah, it's a mess. That was too bad to see him die after, you know, he's been for 4 seasons and stuff. But
no, absolutely.
But again, I think I said last episode, like, I think I said this, by the end of, you know, as kind of like some, you know, by the end of it, we're going to be feeling almost reminiscent for the Barksdale crew, because this Marlowe thing is just so depraved, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, the Barksdale thing was really depraved too, actually, looking back on it. But like, we have this kind of like this nostalgia for all these characters who were in the Barksdale crew,
mm-hmm.
and yeah, I mean, like,
but that's the thing about the old days. The old days.
Yeah, I guess so.
As Slim Charles put it.
So, yeah, Slim Charles continues to be a very solid actor in every scene he's in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There was at one point, I think there was a point where the McNulty's kids were playing video games. No. It was Naaman who was playing video games. He'd come home and he was playing video games. He comes home, he turns on his Xbox or something, and he boots up, and immediately he's shooting right away. And it says, on the bottom of the screen, it says Halo 2. And I'm like, oh my God, this is some bullshit. This is a bullshit transition to a video game, because you don't just turn on the Xbox and the game is playing immediately and you're shooting. You got to go through like, this is, 341 or whatever whoever made Halo, I forget what I mean, like, you got to go through the loading screens and shit, and then you got to sign in, you got to load your game, and then you got to, go through your checkpoint and stuff. And, and I was like, this is bullshit. As a gamer, I'm like, come on. Okay, David Simon, this is not part of your wheelhouse. Whatever.
This is breaking up the realism.
But, yeah. We lost the Mizene scene, I think. Yeah, at that moment. So, it's all right, David Simon. We forgive you. You did so much else good.
Yeah,
we can forgive your occasional trespass.
Yeah.
So, I made a note also at one point. Royce said to Carcetti, "It's easy enough to write letters when all you're required to do is write letters." And he's obviously corrupt and everything and stuff, but he's kind of right, because Carcetti had no idea about the budget shortfall and stuff. And so, the things that he was actually asking, Royce to allocate funds for may not have been possible in the last season. So it's, everything from the beginning of the show informs the later parts of the show, and then everything from the later parts kind of reinforms you about the things that you saw before. And it's just like, there's so many layers.
Mm-hmm.
Carcetti and Tony Gray. Carcetti totally screwed Tony Gray, and yet he needed to get to be the mayor.
Mm-hmm. Split the black vote.
Yeah, it was cynical, but it worked. Yeah. What did you think seeing Omar goes to the store? I forget which episode it was. At the beginning of the episode, Omar wakes up in the morning. There's some full frontal male nudity. He puts on a bathrobe. He goes to the store. He comes out and has a cigarette. And somebody drops their drugs right next to him when he probably wasn't even thinking about that. And he just goes home.
I almost feel like, wasn't that just saying that he thought it was just too easy? Like, it's like he's just such a feared character that people are just willing to throw their stuff at him without even, a fight.
Yeah.
So it's like he needed the challenge of, like, robbing, Marlo or Prop Joe or whatever.
Well, I think he robbed Marlo. Number one, he robbed Marlo at the card game where Marlo was trying to screw himself by learning how to play poker or whatever with those guys. Mm-hmm. He robbed Marlo there because Prop Joe had put him on that game. Mm-hmm. Prop Joe is playing games within games, right? I mean, like, Prop Joe is like, Marlo is not part of the co-op, and I need to show Marlo that I have advanced information about things that are going down so that he realizes he needs to join the co-op so he can get that information. And so I'm going to send Omar to rob the game that he plays at that I know about, and he can't trace it back to me, but then, like, when he comes to me, I'm going to tell him, oh, I knew that thing was going to get hit. I didn't know you were going to be there. If you were part of the co-op, I would have told you don't go to that game or something. He's like,
now, does Marlo later join the co-op? Because when they have that store owner who was supposed to say it was Marlo that killed that woman, who then recants, so then, like, they give him up to Snoop and Chris Partlow. So is Marlo part of the co-op at that point? Is that why he did that?
I'm not really clear. I think by the end of the season he's kind of halfway in. But yeah, he's definitely got 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Because
like Prop Joe was like, oh well, that's part of what it means to be in the co-op is that we look out for each other, and then like we're supposed. I did feel bad for that store owner, but it was kind of funny. It was like, oh, I thought you were gonna bring me up north. He's like, yeah, in a way. Slim Charles.
Yeah, that was messed up because like the store owner gave him his store for $2,000 and a ticket on a bus, which is obviously not what a store would ever be worth. And then, to add insult to injury, like he's being driven out of town by Chris Partlow, by Slim Charles, and then Slim Charles hands him off to Chris and Snoop. And it's like, wow, the fix was in from the beginning on him. Mm-hmm. I think Marlo was in the co-op because he was killing the New York people for them. And, we had the almost comical scene where Chris and Snoop are walking up the street and they're like, how are we going to know these guys are from New York? And he's like, well, ask them about something that only Baltimore people would know about. And he's like what? And he's like, well, how about this one musician on this one radio station or the people on this morning show on the radio station that everybody knows about. I'm like, okay. Mm-hmm. And she asked that guy that thing, and then he says something like, you mean this person? And she pulls the gun. I was like, no, that person's on the show too. And she's like, I didn't know, okay. And then they go up to that other person, and they're like, I forget what they say. They say the song lyrics, who sang that, da-da-da-da? And he's like, what do you mean? He's like, I'm asking who would this person be? He's like, oh, for real? And they're like, they shoot him, and it's like, whoa. And then, Prop Joe had to tell them, like, you got to stop putting these bodies in the vacant houses because, like, New York's not getting the message because they don't know where the people are going. You got to leave them in the street. And they're like, oh, okay, we'll do that then.
Yeah, I did like the scene where they're like, ask him something only somebody from Baltimore would know or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, that was Chris and Snoop. What about those two? Those two are, wow, yeah.
Yeah, they're pretty far gone. It's hard to see the humanity in them anymore. But I did think, the fact that they beat that one guy to the pulp obviously it was implying that Chris Partlow had some experience with being, molested or whatever in his youth, that he would be taking it out by beating this guy to death with his bare hands. And I guess that was somewhat commendable, but it's like you've seen him do all these other horrible things, so it's kind of like, well, I don't know. It's kind of still seem like a bad person, but I guess I see partially maybe how you got that way. I don't know. So.
Yeah, well, Chris, Chris is a strange character. I mean, he's very calm, like pretty much all the time, except that one time.
Oh, that was so cold when that guy was throwing up, and he was like, "Don't worry, I got you, man." And he was like so calm, and he's like shoots him in the head, and that was
that's like that was the weird thing too. Whenever he was taking somebody to kill them, like in the vacant houses, it was just very impersonal,
very businesslike,
not angry,
very businesslike,
and he almost made them feel like he was doing them a favor. He's like, "Don't worry, I got you. I'm gonna make it fast. Don't worry, like don't worry about it. I got your, I'm on your side and stuff." And just like right to the moment he shoots him in the head and stuff. And Snoop is obviously a total psychopath, and just off the chain most of the time. But she seems to mind Chris when what he's doing and stuff. It's just the two of them together, just like and like somebody said at some point that Chris Partlow always wears country clothes or something. They said like his clothing style is kind of like he's wearing a lot of flannel and stuff, and it was just like you almost feel like there could be more backstory to him. Like, what's his story? Like, why is he not dressing like everybody else? Why is he like this? It does seem like he may have gotten raped in prison or something like that. So, yeah, but, I mean, those two were just, something else.
Because, I like when they're, like, just hanging out, and he's like, that Lean With It, Rock With It song goes on, and he's like, yeah, that's my jam, and I'm like, oh, yeah, I like that song, too. Wait a minute, this guy's a serial killer. I shouldn't feel good about this guy.
Well, that might have been the song they asked the New York guys about. Who does that Lean With It, Rock With It? And he's like, I don't know. And he's like, bro, I'm asking who this person be. And he's like, oh, and they shoot him. Yeah. And what about the scene where Marlo, another big major scene, major one-liner, I think, from The Wire was Marlo goes into the Korean convenience store and he steals some candy when he knows the black security guard is watching him. And then the black security guard confronts him outside and he's like, I'm not stepping to you, but why you got to do that? This is my job. I got a family to support and stuff. And, it's hard enough. I don't like working here. And he's like, and he goes, you want it one way. He's like, what are you saying? He's like, you want it one way. He's like, stop saying that. He's like, you want it one way, but it's the other way. And then like a couple scenes later, he has that guy killed. Just
that was a good line.
Insanity.
Yeah, I forget who said it. Might have been Poot. It was like, world's going one way, people another, or whatever. I like that line too.
Yeah. Another fun line was when Bubs' friend was not going to school the way he was supposed to be going, and he said, "Why weren't you in school today?" He's like, "Well, I was sick, or it's a half day or something." He said, "I done heard, made up, and tested every excuse known to man, every excuse invented." It's like, yeah, that sounds right for Bubs. I just found the Sidner, the black cop named Sidner. There's the white cop and the black cop that we can never remember. Who was Sidner and the other guy was Dozerman, right?
Yes.
So those are the two who've always kind of been there, but we just don't really know them very well, and they kind of like seem like extras almost. But yeah. I think Bunk and Freeman had a pretty hilarious night out at one point. I don't remember what they did exactly. Probably neither do they. I think like Freeman was probably being serious and Bunk was probably trying to get laid or something.
Yeah. I think I know which scene you're talking about.
Yeah. So, let's see. Yeah, I think they said about the students, they said, that's tracking students. It's a nasty phrase in educational circles. I think that's what they said about that. Let's see, Randy snitching. Let's see, the kids had a zombie conspiracy where they said that Chris was walking people into the vacants, killing them, and then turning them into zombies and stuff. And they had this thing about zombies, and Dookie was like the one who knew, no, he's just killing them. They're just dead. Like, I saw one of the bodies or something, and they're like, no, I think they're zombies. Then they had like a crackhead walk by or something and like scared the hell out of them. They all ran away.
Yeah, I did like that scene.
Yeah.
I thought it was notable how many times people find the bodies in the vacants and then they just go about their day afterwards. Like, they had the, that scene where they were like, no, you're just dead. You're not a zombie. That scene, that guy probably laid in there for another few weeks. And then when Lester Freeman's like, I bet dollars to donuts any, vacant with one of these in them has a body in it. Okay, let's check. And then they go check and they're like, all right, we're not going to call this in. See ya.
Yeah, it's police malpractice basically, because obviously the sooner you find the body, the better chances you're going to have of solving the murder. But from on up the chain of command, it was just malpractice. I thought that scene with the kids finding the body was a very kind of Stephen King-esque thing, right?
Stand by Me,
like Stand by Me or something, which I haven't seen, I haven't read, but like I'm aware of the story or something. Some kids find a body and how that affects them or something, and so it's like, yeah. That was interesting.
You should write the back of the box synopsis. Kids find a body, it affects them or something. I don't know, just watch it.
Yeah, it's Stephen King, bitches. You know how many movies and books he's written and directed or whatever.
Exactly.
But let's see. We had the episode Margin of Error, where Naaman's mom, Weebay's wife, gets cut off by Brianna. They've gotten some money from the Barksdales, but she says there's no more money to be gotten. She's like, my husband's, he's got some stories he could tell, and she's like, well, he probably won't or something. And so then Naaman's mom sends Naaman out on the street and says, you got to get to work for real. You need to go back to Bodie, get a package, and you need to support me here. And obviously, I don't know, not a great mom moment, perhaps.
Yeah, kind of in the tradition of what's his name's mom,
D'Angelo's.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, she's kind of she seemed really nice at times, because her son came home from school and she told him she wasn't going to give him any money, but then he went upstairs and he found all these nice clothes laid out for him and stuff. And just you think my son's not going to go to school looking like himself or something like that? She's really looking out for her son, but at the same time, when the time comes, she really expects her son to step up and provide for her in the way that her husband had, and
be the drug dealer that she always knew he could be.
Yeah. And but at the same time, she did some bad stuff. Like one time, the kids would all come over to her son's house to join him, and she blocked Dookie at the door and closed the door on him and stuff. And her son was kind of bullying Dookie, which was not pretty behavior. I mean, Naaman is a character, I don't know. He obviously Bunny sees something in him by the end of the season.
Well, that's one thing I wanted to mention, and to go back to Przybylewski, he has that conversation with the principal, there's going to be another Dookie after him, and you're going to need your attention too, and that's true, and that's one of the things that really killed me about being a teacher is even if you feel like you make a connection or you can make some difference in these kids' lives, you only have them for a certain amount of time in the day, and even then they're going to go on to another grade, and you're not going to see them again after that, really, and you can't be with them 24 hours a day unless you literally do what Bunny did and adopt them, and it's you can't do that with everybody, and it's hard, because it's if you want to make a difference in people's lives, there's a limit to that. If you're a teacher, you can have that positive impact, but you can't go home and make sure their clothes aren't being stolen forever, so.
Yeah, and I thought that scene was kind of interesting too, from a relationship perspective too. I mean, you could hook up with a girl, you could date a girl for a little while, but you're not going to have a lasting impact in her life unless you marry that girl. And if you marry that girl, there's going to be a whole bunch of girls after that who you're not going to affect, right? It's I mean, people come and go through our lives, and if you I don't know, you just got to if you settle on one of them that you're going to adopt or marry or whatever, form some sort of friendship with or something, you're closing the door on other things, or you got to let that one go and keep doing your job basically or whatever. So yeah, I thought that was an interesting scene on different levels. Yeah. So let's see. Snitch and Randy, he gets in trouble. He tells about the body of what's his name, Little Kevin, I think. He tells the police about that, and through the incompetence of Herc and Carver, they let it be known to somebody else, to Little Kevin, that Randy was snitching or something, and he goes back to Marlowe at Bodie and Poop's advice and gets himself killed almost immediately. And that pisses, obviously, Bodie off and sets that whole thing in motion. But at the same time, it betrays Randy, and people in Marlowe's crew start talking to the students at the middle school who start ostracizing Randy and calling him Snitching Randy and stuff, which leads to the firebombing of his house, where he's supposed to have a police protection unit there. But obviously the police are like, the people who are watching the house make a phone call and they say, "Oh my God, there's this police officer under fire over here. He's getting shot up and stuff." And these people just like put on their siren and drive away immediately, because that's, obviously their number one priority. But the fact that the criminals know that makes them manipulable, right? Like, so then they firebomb the house, and it sounds like Miss Anna is got, severe burns, and Randy's got a little bit of burn damage and stuff, and he's got to go to a foster care, or he's got to go to a group home, basically. So
yeah.
And, that had kind of come about because he had told the principal that he knew about a body after he'd been a lookout boy for some older students sleeping with another female student at the middle school that turned into a rape situation. And he tried to bargain his way out of that problem by saying, "I know where a body is." So she told that to the police, and then she got them hooked up with the police. And by the end of the thing, Presbalewski is like telling him, "You know what? I used to be a police officer, and I would have told you to talk to the police, but at this point I can see how that plays in the community here and what the consequences of that are. And right now I'm going to say, don't say anything to anybody." And the police come there and they're like, "Why'd you tell him not to talk to us?" He's like, "Well, I just told him that because, like, that's, you guys obviously can't protect him." And so...
I think Freeman, isn't it Freeman that comes to talk to him when he says that?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I think Freeman understands, but I think Bunk is not quite as understanding.
Yeah, that was another part of the arc of Presbalewski. I think one thing that, I don't know, it's something that you just kind of lose track of in this, is that these kids are all just in middle school, and there's this idea, I think, in the world that a lot of people see black children as being older than they actually are, right? And
I see that. I mean, I even recognize that in myself too. I definitely had to keep reminding myself that these were middle schoolers, especially when remember that one kid that was obviously like in elementary school that was on the corner. Who was that one kid?
Oh yeah, was he like Naaman made him his lieutenant just so that the kid would bottle the vials at his own house or something, and then the kid ended up stealing from him and stuff, and then Michael ended up beating him up, and it's like, it's messed up. Yeah, I mean, these guys are young as hell, and the thing is, I don't know, they don't feel like middle schoolers to me at times, and at times they do. And I guess part of that is because they're wearing kind of uniforms, which we never had, and obviously middle school, elementary school, high school never had. Korea has it, but it's like, you really think about how messed up the whole situation with Marlowe is, that he's, or any of them, I guess, that they're putting these people on the corner, because when I think about what I was doing in middle school,
not even comparable.
I was not cut out for anything like this. No. I was not in this situation, and to have to be training like a Michael character, like a 7th or 8th grader, to be an assassin in your drug crew. I mean, that's some, you watch the show and everything seems sort of like in the game, in the world or whatever, and then you really think about how fucked up that is. And it's just really fucked up, right? It's like,
well, I mean, it's just like child soldiers in Rwanda, basically. At that point, it's like we're playing war games with these paintball guns, so you can see how to like kill someone faster and more efficiently.
Yeah, I thought that beginning, that intro scene was really cheap. So I've got to say that was a cheap scene, because
they make you think it's real, and then you see this paint, and it's like, what?
Yeah, I mean, you've got Michael running. You've got Snoop and Chris chasing him into the building. He's got a gun. They've got guns. He shoots them. Red paint goes everywhere. You think it's blood. And then you're like, oh, boy, these guns sure do look real, don't they? Yeah, they look just like real guns. Come on.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody makes paintball guns that look like real guns like that, to my knowledge. Certainly not in 1999, 2002, 2004, whenever this was, that this season was made. Like, they don't, number one, they don't make it because it's a safety hazard, because obviously, like, if the police had rolled by when these kids are running around in the neighborhood with toy guns out, they're going to get killed, obviously. Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, and number two, paintballs come in all kinds of different colors. They don't just come in red. So I don't know, maybe they, like, I don't know.
Well, that was the cheapest possible version of what we talked about before with those opening scenes, how they kind of throw you into a scenario and don't really explain it. But, like, this was like intentional trickery at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like I'm okay with it in a normal situation, but I just feel like they had to binge too many. It's kind of like the video game scene. It's just like, it seems like he was talking about something he didn't really know about, and he was doing it for dramatic purposes to make you think that for some reason Chris and Snoop were trying to kill Michael.
Mm-hmm.
And so he made it look like real guns and made it look like real blood and made it look like a real chase scene. It's kind of, come on,
yeah.
It's just one scene. I get it, but it just felt a little bit cheap and a little bit like, he didn't really earn that one. I don't feel like
seemed a little off to me. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I did paintball through high school, and like the paintball guns don't look anything like a gun. Like I'm not sure if the police have some sort of paintball gun that looks exactly like a gun, and somehow it feeds the paintball from inside the gun rather than having a hopper on top or something. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that's possible that they have something like that, but I've never seen it, even up until now. And I don't really keep up with paintball anymore, but I until now I've never seen a paintball gun like that. So
I'm not entirely sure. Yeah.
I don't know. But yeah, it's a small gripe. It's a very small gripe. There was a great scene in the troubled kids learning special class thing, where that one young kid had said, "I want to be a pediatric neurosurgeon," like that one
Ben Carson,
for an African American male. What's his name? And Bunny says, Ben Carson. And he says, yeah, that dude. And then the other guy says, he's a black surgeon at Hopkins with a lot of profile. I was like, and then late, I was like, I guess he was from Baltimore, maybe, right? Is that the story?
Was he? I don't know. I mean, I know he was a neurosurgeon that separated conjoined twins or whatever, but
yeah. And then there was a later scene when Bunk comes to Beatty and McNulty's house, and he's trying to get McNulty to drink and everything. And he said, what do your kids want to do? They want to be cops like you? And he's like, no, I want to be this. I want to be that. I want to be a rock star or something, dweebs. And then and McNulty's like, well, what do your sons want to do? He's like, oh, they're still they're going through that neurosurgeon phase or something. And it's like, damn, how many shots at Ben Carson is this guy going to take in this season? Did he know something about Ben Carson at that point that we didn't know, or did he actually think?
Well, he wrote, Ben Carson, I know, wrote a book, like, I forget, it was like Gentle Hands, or for some autobiography that was apparently like very popular. Yeah, very popular in the black community, because it was obviously kind of what they're saying. It's like, you can aspire to be this too. Like, he did it, and whatever. Yeah, he stabbed somebody as a child or whatever he said in the book.
Yeah, he tried to kill his own mother with a hammer.
Yeah, exactly. And now he's the head of HUD. You can do it too.
Politician trying to buy a $30,000 bedroom suite or something for his office.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I just thought it was hilarious because that was something that I didn't even notice the first 2 times I watched this show, because I didn't really know who Ben Carson was at that point. So that was foreseen. Definitely a throwback. That was a good callback there. So I was like, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, when Herc and Doberman pulled over Chris and Snoop, and that was just like, wow. Yeah, the 2 pretty incompetent cops dealing with a couple of cold-blooded killers, and they don't know, they don't fully correctly search the van. They don't, know what they're looking for. He takes out the nail gun and he shoots one right next to the Snoop's leg into the ground, into the pavement, and it stays there or something. And it's like, and then they just let him go or whatever, because they don't find the gun.
Yeah, they don't see the stash box or whatever.
And then later, I think when Freeman is kind of debriefing Herc or something, Herc is all about the internal affairs complaints, and he's like talking about that, and he's like, I can't believe they got me on this bullshit or something. He's like, so you pulled over Chris's thing? He's like, yeah. And he's like, and you saw the nail gun? He's like, yeah, I fired a nail right next to the dame's leg. It's like, gee, I wonder how you got these IAD complaints, you know?
No one understands him but his woman.
Yeah, I'm not sure he's even got one of those.
Come on, wasn't he at the movies with somebody?
Yeah, that was a long time ago. We see Kima meet up with her ex-girlfriend who's got the son, and you know, Kima brings her the money because she's getting better money at the homicide department, and she's given the money and she's feeling good, and then she meets Kima's new girlfriend and stuff, and she sees that like there's no going back. She kind of has a McNulty moment with her ex. There, it's kind of a thing. Yeah, I liked it when I thought it was a very funny scene when Crocetti wants to fire Burrell. He's like, well, I can't fire him. And they're like, well, can you try to shame him or something? And he's like, and, you know, almost immediately, I mean, Burrell is obviously not a great police commander, but he's like, he's got a political mind, and he's like, he senses intuitively right away, like, he's like, I won't quit. You have to fire me. He's like, well, I'm not going to fire you. He's like, okay, well, then I'm starting my vacation right now since you got Rawls doing my job for me. It's like, wow. Yeah, this guy can't be shamed. You can't shame him into quitting his job. Nope. He knows he's got, you know, the power to keep his job, basically. Yeah, that was interesting. At one point, Michael, one of the kids, was really depressed or something, and, you know, his younger brother's dad had come back, the guy who seems to have maybe molested him as a younger boy. And, I mean, I thought it was interesting at that moment that Dookie recommends several things that could have helped him. I mean, we have this feeling that there's no help for these kids, and Dookie recommends like a school social worker, and they're like, no, he's an alcoholic. And he says, Mr. Cresbo, and then he says, there's Cuddy at the boxing gym. He's like, no, he's too friendly. Everybody's too friendly and stuff. And so, and, you know, Dookie kind of had a point. I mean, there are several places in the community that Michael theoretically could have gone to, and, you know, Michael has his own blinders on regarding, you know, people who may or may not be able to help him. And stuff, so.
But even what's his name, Randy was like, no, he'd be all up in the women.
Yeah, I think, you know, things could have probably gone a lot different for Michael if he would have just understood Cuddy better.
Yeah,
Cuddy's all about the ladies.
Oh yeah, if we know anything about the Cuddy.
Yeah, although, you know, I think they did a good job of like kind of like playing it where you can kind of see Michael's thing, like when Cuddy takes the two boys to go watch the fight, and then he's driving them home, and you get the feeling immediately that like he drops the one boy off first, and like Michael's like, no, I'll get off here. It's like, no, man, it's like 6 blocks or something to your house. I'll get off here. I'm good. And it's like, yeah, I mean, from his perspective, you can kind of see the situation, like this guy could be kind of grooming them or something, kind of like, you know, it's a little bit overfamiliar or something to be taken over this event or something. Yeah. So you can almost see it from his side, but at the same time, we have a better understanding of Cuddy and his predilections. And so, yeah, that was kind of an unfortunate misunderstanding, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
That was interesting. Daniels's and Perlman's optimism regarding the Carcetti, the promise of a new administration, the idea that things would not be too fucked up at that point. Teaching to the tests, teaching Greek mythology in the hood, the language and cultural barrier as far as, you know, he's trying to explain like, okay, this person saved his friend, you know, these ancient Greek stories and stuff. And these people are just like not getting it, not understanding the language, not understanding the people, not understanding the motivation, not understanding the message. And yet we know people like Omar later can cite these kinds of stories, and this is something that he really appreciated. So, the troubled kids' class's fancy dinner. What did you think of that?
I like that. That was good. Out of place.
Yeah. Yeah, I forget the girl's name that was with him. Zenobia maybe or something, but she, like, Naaman kind of halfway was trying to act right. The other kid was, they were all a little scared, but like the two boys were kind of fucking around, and she was, she had taken the time to do her hair. She was trying to act as best as she could in the public situation, which was obviously a very uncomfortable situation. I thought that was interesting. And then they talked about it. What's his name? Bunny and the professor talked about it, and he said, this plummet from masters of the universe to abject fear to humiliated fury and this unawareness and no awareness of it. He said, who says they're not aware? Maybe they just didn't acknowledge. He says, how you get them to believe themselves if they can't even admit their feelings about who they are and what they're doing in this world. I thought that was an interesting scene, because I think we've all been in situations where we feel like we don't fit in or something, or like, we feel like the people around us are of a different social strata and we just can't act right around them, right? Like, I mean, sometimes maybe it's a blind date or something like that. Like, you want to fit in with this person, but it's just not working and stuff, and you just go through all this range of emotions.
Right. Yeah, that was a good scene, I thought.
Yeah. Questions about socialization before education. Is it a good idea? Again, that's kind of that educational stuff. There was a statement, a patrolling officer on his beat is the one true dictatorship in America.
That was a good line. Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty true. Even more true now. So.
Yeah, let's see. We did the Bodie and Poop part. Let's see. The bad policing by the new administration, quality of life violations, people,
broken windows policing.
The revenge of the Sith via Burrell, right? He was like, we're going to give stats to this new mayor, and he's going to appreciate. I couldn't tell if he was trying to piss off the mayor or if he was actually trying to give him something to show that he could still do his job.
Right.
But obviously, it backfired in both cases. Sorry, I'm racing towards the end here. Oh boy, a couple of jokes. I mean, Cheese Wagstaff. There's one scene. It's just like a cold open into this scene where he's in the shop with like Little Charles or something, and Slim Charles and Cop Joe. And he says, "You know who got the fattest asses and the best pussy?" So he says, "Who that?" He says, "Midgets." Slang for an African American male. It's like, wow, that was funny. That was the delivery was perfect. The timing was perfect. That was just a ridiculous thing to say. Yeah, that was great. I think there was another, and then after Cheese was at the drug drop, the major drug drop that got robbed by Omar and his crew, he said, "I mean, he had this one hoe pulling guns out her pussy, Unc. That shit was unseemly, man." It's not quite true, but it sort of happened like that. But it's like, you got to wonder, like, how much of the stuff that Cheese says does Prop Joe actually believe? Because this is like a half truth. It's not true, but it's ridiculous. But it's like, she did pull a gun out of her dress, but it's like, wow.
Yeah, that's not exactly what happened.
Yeah, so Cheese Wagstaff is funny. He's ridiculous, and he's going to have a story arc in season 5 too.
Awesome.
Let's see. Carcetti meets with all the people in Lester's Barksdale folder. Oh, that was funny when Lester starts pulling out his old Barksdale folder, and he's going through all the political connections and stuff, and then we have like a cross-cut scene where Carcetti's meeting these same people at this black tie affair, and you're like, oh boy, this is the swamp. This is why nothing gets done, because the people who something needs to be done about have connections with the people who would be in a position to do something about it, right? So that was an interesting one. Presbo has become kind of the children's advocate. Let's see. Yeah, the line, when Lester says this is a tomb when he finds that nail gun nail in the thing, and you realize like he's realized what they're doing, what Chris and Snoop have been doing. Cuddy gets shot trying to pull Michael off the corner, and he goes to prison. Or no, he goes to the hospital, and that one nurse is really just giving him a hard time, like, this is what you deserve. You come in here, you take our tax money and stuff, get shot, you're gangbanging, I saw you got prior criminal convictions and stuff. And then Bunny comes to visit him, and she says, are you here to arrest him? You're police, right? And he's like, arrest him? No, he got shot trying to help a kid. She's like, oh, wow. You know, she's like, oh, she kind of changes her whole perspective on the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was a part where after he got shot, the Korean store owner where he got shot in front of, he comes out and he says, and I'm just happy to be able to do this. I can translate the Korean. He basically says, are you okay? Quickly, police call. 괜찮아요? 경찰, Bali, something call. I don't know. Anyways, yeah. So there's that. Big line. I think this is kind of the Where's Wallace of this season. You gonna look out for me, Sergeant Carver? You gonna look out for me? You gonna watch my back? All that stuff, you know. After his house gets burned down, Randy is very accusatory towards Carver.
Yeah,
rightfully
so. Very much so.
There was I call it Jay Landsman's holiday cheer, where he comes in, he looks at the board, he's got his holidays Christmas tie on, and he's got like 50 murders on the board, and he's got Bugs Bubbles in the thing confessing to a murder, and then Bubs throws up on him, and he goes to the bathroom to wash his shirt. While he's washing his shirt, he looks up and he sees some graffiti on the wall. And it says like Rawls sucks dick or something, and he kind of smiles, and you wonder, did Landsman do that? Is that his work? He's just kind of like proudly admiring him, and does he know that he's probably right because he saw Rawls in the gay bar earlier? And then he goes back out there. It's like, and there's this kind of like this semi-jovial holiday cheer to the whole scene, and you realize like that. I don't know. It's just like a. Again, Landsman is a little demon living in his own personal level of hell, which Bubs happened to stumble into this season. It's just like,
exactly.
This is it's so weird, yeah. I couldn't figure out why Chris and Snoop got out on bail, because obviously they're suspected of killing a lot of people, and they're not going to stop, probably, if you let them out. In fact, it's almost a sure thing that they're going to kill more people.
Well, maybe they couldn't charge anything yet because they took the DNA samples from them, and they also took the gun, so I'm sure they'll maybe bring them back when they match that up. I don't know. But yeah, you're right.
Yeah, but I'm just thinking, like, they've got not witnesses, not first-person witnesses necessarily, but the word on the street is these are the people who've been putting bodies with vacants. They've got a gun. They've got, all this stuff. I can't believe that they got back out on the street so quickly. Bodie offered info on Marlowe, but in the scene before he was killed, basically, with McNulty at the Arboretum or something like that. Bunny Carver wants to adopt Naaman. Bodie falls. I gotta say, Bunny Carver trying to adopt Naaman and Weebay going for it. This felt a lot to me like kind of like the third season's conceit of having drugs be legalized, in that I just could never seeing it happen. I could never see it happening. I just didn't buy it. I didn't buy it from Weebay. I didn't buy that the mother would accept it because Weebay said. Yeah, Randy goes into a group home. McNulty asks for this job back in the detail, which could be a fateful decision. Walk on Gilded Splinters is a song.
Love that song. Love that song.
Yeah. Then we also see in that last scene, we see Fayette Mafia Crew Forever with all the kids' names. And it's really just kind of a poignant, sad moment, because we see that they're all going in different directions. We see that their lives are not, Naaman, maybe his life may be getting better, but everybody else's life is getting worse. And you realize these guys are not going to be friends anymore, really. They're kind of in different paths. And it's just, and we've just kind of been on the journey with them the whole season. And now, so that's pretty much my last note.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm looking forward to season 5. I can already tell I'm going to want more after this is done. So,
Yeah. Anyways, I look forward to seeing how you think about the news media season in the next part. So.
Yeah, I'm excited for that.
Respecting your time, I know you got to get going here and stuff. So.
Yeah. Well, it was good talking with you,
Joe. Got a good episode in.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I hope our listeners are still following along with the show with us here.
Oh yeah. We got several dozen people getting into it every time I put something up with the wire here. So I know there's some interest here. So, but
all right, let's hope David Simon is one of them.
Absolutely. But all right. Well, have a good night, Chad.
Have a good day there, Bob.
All right, later on.
All right. Yeah, we'll talk to you soon.
Yep.
Bye-bye.
If you enjoy this podcast, there are several ways to support it. Join the Rob Burgess Show mailing list. Go to tinyletter.com/The Rob Burgess Show and type in your email address. Then respond to the automatic message. I have a Patreon account which can be found at patreon.com/Rob Burgess Show Patreon. I hope you'll consider supporting in any amount. Also, please make sure to comment, follow, like, subscribe, share, rate, and review everywhere the podcast is available, including iTunes, YouTube, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Google Play Music, Facebook, Twitter, Internet Archive, TuneIn, and RSS. The official website for the podcast is www.therobburgessshow.com. You can find out more about me by visiting my website, www.thisburgess.com. And if you have something to say, record a voice memo on your smartphone and send it to therobburgessshow@gmail.com. Include voice memo in the subject line of the email. Until next time.